thing that a wife can do is help herself through counseling or even treatment. You can't be the one to deal with it. You can't be the one to start dealing with the issue of sexual abuse. I just always thought he will tell me when he's ready. And just recently came to a point that he had no choice but to really come to terms with it. I just thought, it's time. It's about time.
She's been my rock. She's been my support. She's the strength that I didn't have.
I think, that meeting between the Church of Canada, Anglican Church of Canada, and also the survivors is a path towards, where there will be some type of apology at some point. I don't know when. It was very heavy for sure, very emotional, very heartfelt, anger. There's so many emotions. But out of that as well, they're so kind. They're so kind, considering what they went through.
I recognize the member for Kiiwetinoong.
I am a survivor of a colonial system. I was born in Sulikaut, Indian Hospital. That own hospital was a segregated hospital for First Nations people. By the 1960s, there were 20 fully functional Indian hospitals in Canada, places that delivered substandard care. You know, it was a form of apartheid. But my parents raised me in the bush. My first language is Anishinaabemowin, also known as Oji-Cree. We lived with the seasons, hunting, fishing, and trapping. We lived peacefully on the land, taking only what we needed when we needed it. When it came time to go to elementary school, I was sent to an Indian day school, one of over 600 Indian day schools run and funded by the federal government across Canada. I had no choice, but I had to go. Once I graduated, I attended an Indian residential school for high school. I attended Stirland Lake Indian Residential School, or the Wahbon Bay Academy. This is outside Pickle Lake, run by Mennonites. It had opened in 1971, but didn't close until the 1990s. I attended Stirland Lake in grades 9 and 10. I lived in a small house, a dorm for the boys. There were 4 boys in my room. I had a bunk bed and only one drawer and a chest of drawers for my clothes. We were constantly watched by staff. They censored our letters home to our parents, reading every word we wrote. The older boys used to be heavily punished, sometimes for no reason. They would be beaten. They would be strapped until they were black and blue. I have no memory of grade 10. I see my photo in the grade 10 yearbook. I can't hardly believe it. It's as if the entire year has disappeared from my life. The pictures in the yearbook says I was there, but I remember nothing. There's also a photograph of a convicted pedophile, Rowe, who used to fly to the school on his float plane to administer to the Anglican boys. He was a notorious sexual offender with upwards of 500 victims. Because of their abuse, violence, and their demons imposed on them. They did not ask to be born into this history, one of oppression, one of subjugation, but they were. All over Canada, we see the horrors of this history that this country has largely chosen to ignore.
He was a minister, but what really interested me was that he had Cubs and Scouts.
We started a Boy Scout group and we would try to earn badges. And every time I earned a badge, I felt so proud. I felt I achieved something. And I began to notice Ralph was really happy with me, was taking more interest in me.
He was a Scoutmaster, he was a minister, and he had a plane. I like to say, and they gave him a plane on top of all that.
Good man. He was fun to be around with. He had that charisma, he had that attraction.
He used to allow us to stay at his place, Mission House. He's a pretty awesome guy, pretty cool with playing. He had all kinds of stuff too. We used to have game nights, we used to have movie nights.
One thing I remember, with the games and the movie nights and the shows, there were never any girls. It was just boys. He didn't want anything to do with the girls. Just boys.
Kami buong ganyan niya. Kagis iga kinaga tsuga nukyan bawa mo ni gisi buata gisi ano muta.
Daka mimi negine munendo abani dod man. No chabana kak no tsubage. Siyago nako nidush kubmatsa ka Koin ko kumusa ke ko do jane batag sago jo kon mamane dam naban ko je pabamya ke pabamok siyagon pabamo niagon.
We did everything together. Played all day outside, adventure games and hunting and slingshots and snaring rabbits. Had many friends until somebody came into our lives. Rowe, the priest, the flying priest.
He had kids all flocking to him. Rowe generation, I guess you would call them. Whatever issues they have today happened because of Rowe. Our alcoholism, drug abuse, broken marriages, suicide is an epidemic. Rowe has a shadow over it. This guy here is our most horrific pedophile. You don't see nothing, you don't hear nothing. I don't even know if he got 5 years.
When I flip through the yearbook, many of my friends, the faces I see staring up at me, have died. They have left too young for the spirit world. Violent deaths, suicides, addiction. Why have so many left us? Their spirits were broken. They could not carry on. Why? Because of Indian residential schools. We are searching for our children, for our families, our family members, all over Turtle Island. They are in shallow graves outside old churches, residential schools, on what is now private property, and they are buried in the lands surrounding old Indian hospitals, TB sanatoriums, and asylums. Over 10,000 suspected remains of children have been discovered all over the place in Turtle Island. Yet still, people deny it is true. They deny that Indian residential schools were horrible places. These deniers have websites and post on social media what has become an acceptable form of hate, denying the truth of Indian residential schools. This must end. Since the government of Ontario was a party to children being in residential schools in the first place, since they were part of the system, the government of Ontario must do its part to combat denialism. Where is the public advertisement campaign about residential schools, about Indian residential schools, admitting the harms and fighting against those who deny our history? Where is the province of Ontario reformed education curriculum, one that makes it mandatory, not a choice, to teach all children in Ontario schools from kindergarten to grade 8 that Indian residential schools happened, that our children, our loved ones, never came home from these institutions? Why isn't the truth of our treaties being taught? Speaker, as I reflect on today, these are the things that occupy my mind. Ontario, you can do your part. Awake from your slumber and open your eyes to our true history. Only then we can walk forward together.